Hello. Okay, today we are going to talk about the differences in the types of design or being a designer, okay? So in particular, we're going to talk about the difference between a surface pattern designer and a craft designer. But we're going to throw a little bit in there, a graphic designer as well. All these types of designers are different kinds of designers. Now, they usually understand a lot of the same design principles because design principles, they don't lie. They're in there with all those designs. You're gonna need to understand negative space, you're gonna understand color, you're gonna understand typography, you're gonna understand how all your elements interact, focal points, movement, dynamics, okay, right? You're gonna know all those things if you are a designer. But once you kind of niche down into these different fields, one of the things that's important is understanding what you are getting into. Now, you guys know that I like to talk and I teach surface pattern designers and craft designers. Those are the two types of designs that I like to teach. Now, many craft designers are surface pattern designers and vice versa. I'm one of those, okay? I never actually even considered myself really much of a surface pattern designer. I just always said I was a fabric and paper designer because I build 3D things, and that's one of the main differences. So let's talk about those differences. So surface pattern designers really are 2D designers who like to concentrate on patterns. So if you have a bunch of florals and they're patterned out, they're 2D, so they're flat, and so they can be put on any kind of surface. So textiles, right? Gift wrap, scrapbooking paper. I mean, there are so many different ways that a surface pattern designer might use their designs, okay? But those are probably the most well-known, right? Anything that's kind of flat and it's a pattern. Whereas a craft designer is someone who is not limited to 2D. They tend to be 3D. You can do 3D stuff if you're a craft designer, and you're more interested in creating objects or things that have focal point, that have meaning and purpose. Now, what do I mean by that? So for example, and it can be in any realm, right? In Ink Club recently, I was making a whole bunch of autumn things, like autumn quotes, autumn sayings to go on t-shirts and hoodies, and you'll see that coming out in our Ink Club app, which by the way, all you have to do is go to iTunes and put in Ink Club and you can download that app and come check out some of our free stuff and then our monthly subscription. But what I do for those, and I design everything in those, is you're looking to create a focal point or something that's beautiful and you've got negative space, there's not a pattern involved, right? And it can be used on any kind of surface. So we were doing hoodies. The other thing we did in Ink Club for September is we have a card. So we have an autumn card and it's a 3D card. So it's got layers. It's been done with, we didn't use Pop Dot this time, we used adhesive tape to give us those layers. And it's paper, and so it's definitely not a pattern, right? Like, so get rid of the pattern part. That's only for surface pattern designers. For crafting designers, it's more about creating these focal points of beautiful objects that we can use in some way, right? So it's usually a home decor. I was just thinking about at Halloween time, we are coming out with all these frames with these beautiful designs in them so that you can use them in your house. September, there's all these quotes and stuff that we show on hoodies and t-shirts. And then we have, you know, the paper cards that you can make so you can give it to somebody. So like apparel. So craft and design tends to be a lot of other things. If you guys have been on my YouTube channel, which I cannot recommend enough, go check me out on my YouTube channel because you're getting these kinds of videos on YouTube, but you're also getting unboxing videos. I just did some with Sawgrass and Heat Press Nation. I'm going to be starting to do more design work and going into shops and talking about what's coming up, what's trending. So you're going to want to see what I'm doing there. But on the YouTube channel, you can see that I've done these unboxings for like sublimation, right? Sublimation is another way that you can be designing flattened files for a specific machine. Same with like a Glowforge machine, or a SVG machine would be like a Cricut or Silhouette machine. So all of these different machines can produce craft products and you are designing for it. So that's really the difference. One is mostly patterns, right? We're dealing with patterns in negative space. And one is usually has a focal point and has a very specific purpose, and usually also is tailored to a specific machine. All right, now let's throw in graphic design. I know I didn't say I was gonna, when I started this with the title, I didn't say I was gonna talk about graphic design, but I think this is important because most designers come out of school, graduate school or undergraduate school, thinking and calling themselves graphic designers. So what is a graphic designer? It's basically anyone who understands all of those things I was talking about, focal point, pattern, they do all of it. Pattern design, they can do focal points and home decor, they can do anything, okay? They're basically generalized, if that makes sense. They're generalized. So that means that they aren't any kind of niche market. And a graphic designer usually ends up in a niche market, or they end up in a corporation or an agency, okay? So I would have considered myself a graphic designer when I finished school. Now I think of myself as a surface pattern designer and a craft designer, okay? Because that's the niche that I know. Many graphic designers will end up being book illustrators. They will be book layout production artists. They might end up being a production artist inside a company, like a sign company. They might end up being a website designer. So there's all these other niches out there that a graphic designer can then go into. And if you're someone who considers yourself a graphic designer, you're probably not niched down enough. So you want to take the experience you are getting or want to get and niche down into those areas so that you can be a specific kind of designer, right? That makes sense, right? So if you have been wondering, like, which one should I do? Here's the cool thing. You can do both, but I always recommend that people start in one place, whether it's crafting or surface pattern, and they choose one or the other. Why? Because the techniques and the way we think about design are different in those two areas. And just because I do them both doesn't mean I always did them both, right? I actually started out more surface pattern design. I kind of started more with papers and fabrics and doing the patterns. And when I got really good at patterns, that's when I could kind of veer off. And about 5 or 6 years into doing mostly pattern stuff, I really focused in on Cricut and silhouette files and building focal points and building products that worked in the home decor market. So I made that transition, but I started in one place and I moved on to second place. Now I do all of it because I have been doing so much of it for 14 years. Hopefully that helps. And if you have been thinking about this and trying to understand whether this industry is for you, I really recommend a design boot camp. I don't hold anything back. I'm very realistic about what it takes to own a design business. And I think a lot of people need to hear it because they think it's all just fairy wings and glitter, and it's just not. There's a realistic side to this, and if you want to do the realistic side, I can promise you, you will feel the fulfillment that's so wonderful in being a designer, but you also have to embrace the work involved with it. And that's this industry and every other industry I've ever seen or been in. So it's no different. It just means that we get to be really creative in our everyday lives. And that is always very exciting to me. So I'd love to see you. A design boot camp, if you want to enroll, is at carinagardnercourses.com/design bootcamp. And I can't wait to see you there. Hey, did you know that you can visit me at makeanddesign.com to learn more about this podcast and join my VIP group for weekly freebies? I can't wait to see you there.